The fluorescent lights buzzed like dying insects above her head. She stood outside room 447, her hands covered in machine grease she hadn't had time to wash off. Her shift at the textile factory had ended 20 minutes ago. She'd run the entire 3 miles to the hospital. Her mother was dying. The doctor's words from this morning still echoed in her skull. Maybe 3 days. Maybe less. She pushed open the door. Her mother lay in the narrow bed, skin like paper, breathing in short, painful gasps. Tubes ran from her arms. Machines beeped softly, counting down the seconds of a life. "Mama," she whispered. Her mother's eyes opened. Still bright. Still warm. Even now. "My brave girl," her mother said, voice barely audible. "You came." "I'll always come, Mama. Always." She pulled the wooden chair closer and took her mother's hand. It felt like holding a bird, fragile, hollow-boned, ready to fly away forever. The doctor said, "If we can do the surgery next week." She couldn't finish the lie. Her mother smiled. She knew. "You've worked so hard," her mother said. "Too hard. You're only 23. You should be dancing, laughing, living. I am living, right here with you." Her mother's eyes filled with tears. "I've been such a burden." Don't ever say that. Promise me something. Anything. Promise me you won't stop fighting. Not for anything. Not for anyone." Her mother's grip tightened with surprising strength. "This world, it tries to break girls like you. Girls with fire inside. Promise me you'll never let them put it out." She felt her throat, close up. "I promise, Mama. And promise me, you'll find your own happiness. Not just work. Not just surviving. Real happiness. I promise." Her mother's breathing grew shallower. "I wish I could have given you more. A real home. Education. Pretty dresses. You gave me everything that matters. You taught me to stand up. You taught me to fight. You taught me that my voice matters." Her mother smiled one last time. "Then I did something right." The machines began beeping faster. She held her mother's hand as the sun set through the dirty hospital window, painting the room in shades of orange and gold. Her mother took one more breath. Then she was gone. She didn't cry. Not then. Maybe she had no tears left. Maybe she'd used them all during the 3 years of watching her mother waste away, working 16-hour shifts to pay for medicines that only slowed the inevitable. The nurse came in. Young. Tired. Sympathetic. "I'm so sorry," the nurse said. She just nodded. "Is there anyone we should call? Family? Friends?" "No," she said quietly. "There's no one." She was alone in the world now. Completely. Utterly. Alone. The funeral cost everything she'd saved. The coffin was cheap pine. The grave was in the section where they buried the poor, marked by a simple wooden cross. She stood there alone as they lowered her mother into the ground. No flowers. No priest. No mourners. Just her, the gravediggers, and the November wind cutting through her thin coat. When it was over, she walked back to her apartment, a single room with a hot plate, a mattress on the floor, and walls so thin she could hear her neighbor's every word. She had 300 rubles to her name. Rent was due in 2 weeks. She went back to work the next day. The Volkov textile factory sat on the edge of the city like a gray, smoking monster. 300 women worked there, hunched over machines that screamed and clattered 12 hours a day. The air was thick with cotton dust that coated your lungs and never came out. She'd worked there for 3 years. The pay was terrible. The conditions were worse. But it was work. And work meant survival. She clocked in at 6 in the morning, her fingers still sore from yesterday's shift. Her station was Machine 47, a temperamental beast that jammed every hour and had once torn off a woman's finger. "You're back," said Vera, the woman at the next machine. She was 40, maybe 50, hard to tell. "Factory work aged you fast." "I thought maybe." "I'm back," she confirmed, pulling on her gloves. Vera nodded. "I'm sorry." "About your mother." "Thank you." "How much did you spend?" On the funeral? Everything. Vera's face crumpled with sympathy. You'll make it back. You're tough. I don't have a choice. The morning stretched on. Her back ached. Her eyes burned from the dust. Her fingers moved automatically. Thread the machine, cut the fabric, stack the bundles, repeat. 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 At noon, the whistle blew for lunch. 30 minutes to eat, rest, and pretend to be human again. She unwrapped the bread and hard cheese she'd brought from home, her only meal until tomorrow, and sat against the brick wall outside the factory. That's when she heard the crying. Around the corner, in the narrow alley between buildings, she found Katia. Katia was 19. Sweet. Shy. She'd started at the factory 6 months ago and still flinched every time a machine made a loud noise. Now she sat crumpled against the wall, sobbing into her hands. Katia? What happened? The girl looked up. Her face was red and swollen. He said if I refuse again. She didn't need to ask who he was. Dmitry Volkov, the factory manager, nephew of the owner. 35 years old, soft around the middle, with small eyes and a smile that made your skin crawl. He'd been at the factory for 2 years, and in that time, he'd made a sport of cornering the younger women. A touch on the shoulder that lasted too long. Comments about their bodies. Requests to stay late, to discuss their performance. Most women tolerated it. They had to, because Dmitry controlled the paychecks. And Dmitry had a rule. The women who cooperated got paid on time, with no deductions. The women who refused found their hours cut, their pay mysteriously short, their stations assigned to the most dangerous machines. What did he do? She asked quietly. Katia wiped her eyes. He cornered me in the storage room. Said I was special. Said he could help me get better shifts. Better pay. All I had to do was be nice to him. She shuddered. I told him no. I said I just want to do my work and go home. And he laughed. He said my next paycheck would be adjusted for my attitude. Rage, hot and sharp, flared in her chest. When? What? When is he paying you? End of shift today. But I don't think I'll get anything now. I need that money. My family. You'll get your money, she said, standing up. What are you going to do? Something I should have done a long time ago. The afternoon shift was torture. Not because of the work. She barely noticed the machines anymore, but because the anger inside her kept growing, feeding on itself, building into something she couldn't contain. She thought about her mother's words, "Promise me you won't stop fighting." She thought about Katia's tears. She thought about every time she'd watched Dmitry touch a woman's waist, whisper in her ear, corner her when no one was looking. She thought about every time she'd stayed silent. No more. When the 6 o'clock whistle blew, she didn't clock out. She waited. The other women filed toward the office where Dmitry sat behind a metal desk, handing out pay envelopes one by one. Taking his time. Enjoying the power. She watched Katia step up, trembling. Dmitry looked at her with that oily smile. Katia. Let me see. He made a show of checking his ledger. Looks like there were some quality issues with your work this week. I'm afraid your pay has been reduced. By half. Katia's face went white. But You can always reconsider my offer, Dmitry said, leaning back in his chair. My door is always open. Especially for pretty girls like you. That's when she stepped forward. Give her the full payment. Dmitry's eyes shifted to her. Excuse me? Katia's work was perfect. Give her the full payment. The office went silent. 20 women turned to stare. Dmitry's smile didn't waver, but his eyes went cold. And you are? Machine 47. I don't remember asking for your opinion, Machine 47. And I don't remember Katia doing anything wrong. Pay her what she earned. Dmitry stood up slowly. He was taller than her, heavier. He stepped around the desk, invading her space. You want to tell me how to run my factory? I want you to stop stealing from women who won't sleep with you. Gasps rippled through the room. Dmitry's face flushed. You need to be very careful. I can make your life here very difficult. My life is already difficult. My mother just died. I have 300 rubles to my name. I work 12 hours a day breathing poison for barely enough to eat. You can't make my life worse than it already is. She stepped closer to him, eye to eye. But I can make yours very uncomfortable. Is that a threat? It's a promise.
You can fire me. You can cut my pay.
You can do whatever you want me. But I'm not going to stand here and watch you abuse these women anymore. Dimitri's jaw clenched. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I know exactly who I'm dealing with. A coward who hides behind his uncle's name and preys on women who are too scared to fight back. His hand moved fast, faster than she expected. The slap caught her across the face, snapping her head to the side. Pain exploded across her cheek. The room went dead silent. She tasted blood. And then something inside her snapped. She looked back at him. Her cheek throbbed. Her vision swam. But her voice was steady. That's your answer? Hit me. You need to learn respect, Dimitri hissed. And you need to learn that not every woman will bow down to you. His hand rose again. This time, she was ready. Her hand shot out and caught his wrist. Held it. Her grip was iron. 3 years of factory work had made her stronger than he realized. Don't, she said quietly. Dimitri tried to yank his hand free. Couldn't. His eyes widened in surprise and humiliation as he realized he was trapped. Let go of me, he said, voice shaking with rage. Apologize to Katia. Pay her what she's owed. And never touch another woman in this factory again. You're finished. You're done. She didn't let him finish. Her other hand came up fast and hard. The slap echoed like a gunshot. Dimitri stumbled backward, clutching his face, eyes wide with shock. You hit me, he gasped. You hit me first. I just hit back harder. Every woman in the room stared at her like she'd just sprouted wings and flown. Dimitri's face went from red to purple. You're dead. You understand me? You're dead. My uncle. The door opened. He walked in like winter itself had taken human form. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Dressed in a black coat that probably cost more than she'd earn in 5 years. His face was sharp angles and cold eyes, and when he moved, everyone instinctively stepped back. She knew who he was. Everyone in the city knew who he was. Nikolai Volkov, owner of the factory, owner of half the businesses in the city. And, according to the whispered stories you only heard in dark corners, the most dangerous man in the entire region. He ran the Volkov family. Not just the businesses. The other things. The things no one talked about but everyone knew. The shipments that came at night. The politicians who did what he said. The men who disappeared when they crossed him. People said he'd killed his first man at 17. People said the police were too scared to arrest him. People said even looking at him the wrong way could get you buried in the woods outside the city. He stood in the doorway, surveying the scene with eyes like frozen steel. Dimitri, he said quietly. Why is there screaming in my factory? Dimitri's face lit up with vicious satisfaction. Uncle. This woman, she attacked me. I asked why there was screaming. I didn't ask for excuses. Dimitri's mouth snapped shut. Nikolai's gaze swept across the room, taking in every frozen woman, every terrified face. Then his eyes landed on her. She stood there, hand still raised from the slap, blood trickling from her split lip, defiance burning in her eyes. Their eyes met. She should have been terrified. She should have dropped to her knees and begged forgiveness. But her mother's voice whispered in her memory, "Promise me you won't stop fighting." So she lifted her chin and stared right back at him. For a long moment no one breathed. Nikolai studied her like she was a puzzle he was trying to solve. Then, without taking his eyes off her, he spoke. "Dimitri, what happened?" "She hit me." What happened?" Dimitri swallowed. "There was a disagreement." "About pay." "She got violent." "Is that the whole story?" Silence. Nikolai turned his attention to the other women. "Someone tell me the truth. Now." No one moved. Fear kept them frozen. Then, quietly, Vera stepped forward. "Dimitri's been taking advantage. For months. He cuts the pay of women who won't cooperate with him. A muscle twitched in Nikolai's jaw. Cooperate, he repeated, voice dangerously soft. It's not true. Dmitri sputtered. These women are lying. There. Katya, Nikolai said, turning to the crying girl. Come here. Katya stumbled forward, terrified. Did my nephew proposition you? Katya's eyes filled with tears. She nodded. Did he threaten your pay when you refused? Another nod. Nikolai's expression didn't change, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. How many others? He asked quietly. Slowly, hands began to rise. 1,
2, 5, 10.
Half the women in the room. Dmitri went pale. Uncle, I can explain. Get out. What? Get out of my factory.
Get out of my city.
You have 24 hours. You can't. Nikolai turned to look at his nephew. Whatever Dmitri saw in those eyes made him stumble backward. 24 hours, Nikolai repeated. Or, I'll have Victor teach you why we don't touch what belongs to the family. And these women work for me, which means they're family, which means you just committed a sin I don't forgive. Dmitri ran. Actually ran, stumbling over himself to get out the door. The silence that followed was deafening. Nikolai turned back to her. You slapped him. Yes. Why? Because he hit me first, and because someone needed to. You could have been killed. I've been dying slowly, for 3 years. A quick death would almost be a relief. Something flickered in his eyes. Not quite a smile, but close. What's your name? He asked. She hesitated. Names had power, especially with men like him. But she'd already crossed the line. Might as well keep going. She told him. He repeated it slowly, like he was tasting it. Machine 47? That's what your nephew called me. You have a real name, I assume. She gave it to him. He nodded. Come to my office. Tomorrow morning. 8 o'clock. Her stomach dropped. Why? Because I want to talk to you. About what? For the first time, his lips curved into something that might have been a smile. About why a woman who just lost everything decided that slapping my nephew was a good idea. And about what I'm going to do with someone who has that much fire in her eyes. He turned and walked out, his coat swirling behind him like smoke. She didn't sleep that night. She lay on her mattress, staring at the water-stained ceiling, her mind racing. What did he want? Men like Nikolai Volkov didn't offer jobs. They gave orders. They took what they wanted. Was this punishment? Was he going to make an example of her? Or was it something worse? She thought about running, leaving the city, disappearing. But where would she go? She had no money, no family, no friends outside this factory, and a small, stubborn part of her refused to run. She'd made a promise to her mother. No more backing down. No more silence. If Nikolai Volkov wanted to kill her, at least she'd die standing up. At 7:30 the next morning, she washed her face, put on her cleanest shirt, which wasn't saying much, and walked to the factory. The office building was separate from the main factory floor. 3 stories of brick and glass, built in the Soviet days when architecture meant function over beauty. She'd never been inside. She climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, her heart hammering. A secretary sat at a desk outside a heavy wooden door. Middle-aged, impeccably dressed. She looked at her with the kind of disdain reserved for insects. Name? She gave it. The secretary checked a list. You're early. Is that a problem? Mr. Volkov values punctuality. Wait here. She sat in a hard-backed chair and waited. 8 o'clock came. The secretary picked up a phone, murmured something, then hung up. You can go in. She stood. Her hands were shaking. She hid them behind her back. The door opened. Nikolai's office was nothing like she expected. She'd imagined leather and dark wood, weapons on the walls, the trappings of a gangster from the movies. Instead, it was almost bare. A desk, 2 chairs, a window overlooking the factory. No photographs, no personal items, nothing that revealed who he was. He sat behind the desk, reading a file. He didn't look up when she entered.
Sit, he said.
She sat. He continued reading for another minute. It felt like an hour. Finally, he closed the file and looked at her. You're 23 years old, he said. You've worked at my factory for 3 years. No missed days. No complaints. Highest output on your floor. Your supervisor says you're the best worker he's ever seen. She said nothing. Your mother died 4 days ago. Cancer. You spent 3 years paying for her treatment. You bankrupted yourself trying to save her. He paused. I'm sorry for your loss. The unexpected sympathy nearly broke her. She blinked hard. Why did you hit my nephew? He asked. I told you. He hit me first. That's not why. You could have walked away. Filed a complaint. Gone to the police, though we both know that would have been useless. But you chose violence. Why? She met his eyes. Because I'm tired of watching powerful men hurt women and face no consequences. Because I made a promise to my mother that I wouldn't stop fighting. Because someone had to. Even if it cost you everything? I already lost everything. The worst had already happened. He leaned back in his chair. What if I told you I could give you more to lose? Her stomach tightened. What does that mean? It means I'm offering you a job. She blinked. What? Not in the factory. With me. As my, let's call it an assistant. Someone who can speak truth when everyone else is too afraid to. Someone who isn't intimidated by power. Someone who can spot problems I can't see because I'm too far removed from the ground level. You want to hire me? After I slapped your nephew? I want to hire you because you slapped my nephew. He deserved it. And if you hadn't done it, I would have had to handle it myself, which would have been much messier. She stared at him, trying to understand. Why? Because in a room full of people, you were the only one brave enough or crazy enough to stand up. That's rare. That's valuable. He folded his hands on the desk. Also because I've spent 20 years building an empire and I've realized something. The most dangerous threats come from the inside. From the people who think they're untouchable. Dimitri was a cancer. You cut it out. I respect that. I don't know anything about business. Or whatever it is you actually do. You'll learn. You're smart. You're observant. You're not afraid to speak. His eyes bore into hers. And you have something most people don't. You understand what it's like at the bottom. You know what my workers face. That's information I need. And if I say no, then you go back to machine 47. You collect your pay. You live your life. No punishment. No revenge. I'm not my nephew. She should have said no. Every instinct screamed at her to refuse, to get as far away from this man as possible. But she thought about the factory floor. 12 hours a day. Lungs full of dust. Barely enough money to survive. She thought about Katia's tears. She thought about her mother's grave, marked by cheap wood. She thought about the promise. Don't stop fighting. What would I have to do? She asked. Whatever I ask. Within reason. I won't ask you to hurt people. I won't ask you to do anything illegal, or at least nothing too illegal. But I will ask you to be honest. To tell me what you see. To be my eyes in places I can't go. Why would you trust me? Because you have nothing to gain by lying to me. You're not trying to climb a ladder. You're not playing politics. You're just trying to survive. That makes you more trustworthy than 90% of the people I work with. She took a breath. How much does it pay? He named a number. Her eyes widened. It was 10 times what she made at the factory. That's too much. That's what your honesty is worth to me. She looked at him, really looked at him. He was dangerous. That was undeniable. But there was something else there too. A kind of cold integrity. He'd thrown out his own nephew without hesitation. He'd listened to the women. He'd offered her a choice, not a threat. Maybe he was a monster. But maybe, just maybe, he was a monster with a code. I'll do it, she said. On one condition. His eyebrow raised. You're negotiating?
Katia.
And the other women. They get their full pay. Backdated for everything Dimitri stole. And their jobs are protected. No retaliation. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded.
Done.
Anything else?
Yes.
If you ever lie to me or ask me to do something that hurts innocent people, I walk. No negotiation. Fair. She stood, extended her hand. He looked at it, then shook it. His grip was firm, warm, and surprisingly gentle. Welcome to the family, he said. She had no idea what she'd just agreed to. The first week was overwhelming. He pulled her off the factory floor immediately. Gave her an office, tiny but it had a window and a door that locked. Gave her clothes, simple, professional, nothing fancy, but clean and new. Gave her salary that made her dizzy. She cried the first time she held the money. Actually cried, alone in her apartment, because for the first time in 3 years she could pay rent and eat in the same week. But the work was harder than any factory shift. He took her everywhere. To meetings with suppliers where men in expensive suits talked in numbers she barely understood. To the docks where shipping containers arrived at midnight, full of, she didn't ask what. To restaurants where businessmen and politicians shook his hand and pretended they weren't terrified of him. Watch, he told her. Listen. Tell me what you see. At first she saw nothing. Just rich people being rich. But slowly, she began to notice things. The way a man's eye twitched when he lied about delivery schedules. The way a politician's smile never reached his eyes. The way certain trucks arrived without paperwork. You're learning, Nikolai said after she pointed out a supplier who was skimming product. Good. What happens to him? She asked. That's not your concern. If I'm going to do this, I need to know what my information leads to. He looked at her with something like approval. He'll be given a chance to make it right. If he refuses, he'll be replaced. Firmly, but not violently. Unless he chooses violence. And if he chooses violence? Then Victor handles it. Victor. She'd met him once. Nikolai's head of security. Built like a bear, with knuckles that looked like they'd been broken and reset a dozen times. She didn't ask what handling it meant. She didn't trust him. But she was starting to understand him. Nikolai Volkov was many things. Dangerous, ruthless, feared, but he wasn't random. Everything he did had a reason. Every decision was calculated. And he kept his word. Katya and the other women got their back pay. Dmitry disappeared. Rumors said he'd fled to Moscow. The factory floor got better ventilation, new safety equipment, a fair supervisor. Why did you do all that? She asked him one evening. They were in his office, reviewing reports. Because you asked me to. But why do you care what I ask? He set down his pen. Because someone who's willing to slap a man for hurting others is someone whose judgment I trust. And because it was the right thing to do. I may be a criminal, but I'm not a monster. What's the difference? Monsters hurt people for pleasure. Criminals hurt people for business. I try very hard to keep it business. That's a thin line. Yes, he agreed. It is. They looked at each other across the desk. Something passed between them. Not attraction, not yet. But recognition. Two people who understood what it meant to survive in a world that wanted to break them. You could have been anything, she said quietly. With your intelligence. Your discipline. Why this? Because I was born into it. My father ran the Volkov family. His father before him. I didn't choose this life. But I could choose to run it differently than they did. He paused. My father believed in fear and pain. I believe in control and efficiency. I'm not a good man. But I'm trying to be a better monster than my father was. It was the most honest thing he'd ever said to her. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Because you asked. And because you're the first person in 10 years who's treated me like a human being instead of either a god or a devil. The air between them felt suddenly charged. She stood up quickly. It's late. I should go. Yuri will drive you home. I can take the bus. Yuri will drive you home, he repeated. The city is dangerous at night. Especially for women connected to me. Connected to you? You work for me now. That makes you a target. My enemies will look for weaknesses. You need to be careful. Fear prickled down her spine. What kind of enemies? The kind that would hurt you to hurt me. Which is why you'll have security. Starting tomorrow. I don't need. Not negotiable. She wanted to argue, but she saw the concern in his eyes, genuine, unguarded, and the words died in her throat. Okay, she said quietly. 3 months passed. She learned the business, learned the players, learned how to spot trouble before it arrived.
She also learned Nikolai.
The way he took his coffee, black, no sugar. The way he rubbed his left temple when a headache was coming. The way his jaw tightened when someone lied to him. The way he softened, just slightly, when she walked into the room. They worked late most nights. Just the two of them in his office, the city glittering below, going through reports and plans and problems. He never touched her, never crossed a line. But the air between them grew thicker with each passing week. You should go home, he said one night at 11. You've been here since 7 this morning. So have you. I'm used to it. So am I. He smiled, a real smile, rare and beautiful. You're stubborn. I learned from my mother. She must have been remarkable. She was. Her throat tightened. She would have liked you, I think. Why? Because underneath all the danger and the ice, you're trying to protect people. In your own twisted way. She believed in people who fought for others. He looked at her for a long time. I'm not a good man. I know. I've hurt people. Killed people. Done things that would horrify you. I know that too. And you're still here. I'm still here. Why? She met his eyes. Because I think you're trying.
Because you kept your word to me.
Because you threw out your nephew for hurting women. Because you fixed the factory. Because when I look at you, I don't see a monster. I see someone carrying a weight that would crush most people. His hand moved across the desk, stopped inches from hers. I can't offer you a normal life, he said quietly. I can't offer you safety. Being close to me is dangerous. I lost my mother. I've been poor, alone, and desperate. I've faced down your nephew and lived. I think I can handle dangerous. His fingers brushed hers. The touch was electric. You scare me, he admitted. I scare you.
Yes.
Because you make me want things I can't have. Things I gave up on years ago. His thumb traced her knuckles. You make me want to be better than I am. Her heart was hammering. What do you want?
You.
But I won't take. I won't pressure. I won't use my power to. She stood up, walked around the desk, and kissed him. His surprise lasted half a second. Then his hands were in her hair, pulling her closer, and she was drowning in him, in the warmth and the want and the desperate, aching need that had been building for months. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to hers. This changes everything, he whispered. I know. My enemies will see you as a weakness. Then we'll deal with them together. You're insane. You slap one factory manager, and suddenly you're insane. He laughed, actually laughed, the sound rough and unpracticed, and kissed her again. For 3 perfect weeks, they existed in a bubble. He courted her properly, dinners, walks along the river, moments stolen between meetings. He was careful with her, gentle. He treated her like she was made of glass. She hated it. I'm not fragile, she told him one night. They were in his apartment, not the office, but his actual home, which he'd been nervous to show her. It was surprisingly simple. Clean lines. Minimal furniture. Like he was ready to disappear at any moment. I know you're not, he said. Then stop treating me like I'll break. I survived poverty. I survived losing my mother. I survived your nephew. I'm still here. He cupped her face in his hands. That's exactly why I'm careful with you. Because you've survived so much. Because you deserve gentleness. I deserve honesty. I deserve a partner, not a protector. Something shifted in his eyes. You're right. I know I am. He kissed her then, not carefully, but with all the hunger he'd been holding back. And she kissed him back just as fiercely, showing him she could handle everything he was. They fell asleep tangled together on his couch, the city lights streaming through the windows. She'd never felt safer in her life. She woke to the sound of breaking glass. It was 3 a.m. Nikolai was already moving, pulling her off the couch, his hand over her mouth. "Don't make a sound," he whispered. Footsteps. Multiple. Heavy boots on hardwood. Someone had broken into the apartment. Her heart exploded into panic, but Nikolai's hand on her arm was steady. He pulled her into the bedroom, into the closet, pressed a phone into her hands. "Speed dial 1. That's Victor. Tell him Black Protocol. He'll understand. Don't come out until I come get you. What are you? Trust me." He kissed her once, hard and fast, then closed the closet door. She heard him walk back into the living room. Heard a man's voice. "Nikolai Volkov. We need to have a conversation. Breaking into my home. Bold. Your protection is slipping, old friend. Your men are getting sloppy." "Who sent you? Petrov? Mikhailov? Does it matter? You've made a lot of enemies. Time to pay debts." "And the girl?" Her blood turned to ice. "What girl?" the intruder said, but she heard the lie in his voice. "Don't play stupid. I know you're here for her. To send me a message. So you do care about something other than money. Interesting. Last chance. Leave now, and I'll pretend this didn't happen." The man laughed. "You're not in a position to negotiate. Neither are you." Gunshot. She bit her hand to keep from screaming. More shots. Shouting. The sound of bodies hitting the floor. Then silence. Terrible, endless silence. She dialed Victor with shaking hands. Whispered the code Nikolai had given her. "On my way," Victor said. 2 minutes. "Don't move." The closet door opened. She almost screamed, but it was Nikolai. Alive. Unhurt. Blood on his shirt, but not his blood. "Come on," he said, pulling her out. "More will be coming." She saw 3 bodies in the living room. Didn't look at their faces. Who were they? Competition. They've been trying to move into my territory for months. Tonight, they made their move. "They came for me. Yes. To hurt you. Yes." She felt sick. "This is my fault." "No." He turned her to face him. "This is the world I live in. I tried to warn you. I tried to tell you." "I don't care," she said fiercely. "I'm not leaving you. You could die. Then I die. But I'm not running." He stared at her like she was a miracle he didn't deserve. Victor arrived with 6 men. They swept the building, secured the exits, took care of the bodies. Nikolai took her to a safe house, an apartment across the city that no one knew about. "You'll stay here," he said, "until this is resolved." "How long?" "As long as it takes." "And you?" "I'm going to war." She didn't see him for 3 days. Victor brought her food, clothes, updates. The situation was bad. The Petrov family, one of the other major criminal organizations in the city, had decided Nikolai was vulnerable. They were hitting his businesses, his shipments, his people. "He's fighting back," Victor told her. "But it's costly." "How costly?" "We've lost 5 men. They've lost more. But they have more to lose." "What can I do?" Victor looked surprised. "Nothing. You stay here. Stay safe. That's how you help him." "That's not good enough. With respect, this isn't your world. This is blood business." "Everything is blood business. I've been fighting my whole life, just a different war. Let me help." Victor studied her, then nodded slowly. "I'll talk to him." Nikolai came to the safe house on the 4th night. He looked exhausted. His face was drawn, his eyes haunted. She ran to him, wrapped her arms around him, felt him sag against her. "I thought I lost you," he whispered into her hair. "I'm here. I'm right here." He pulled back to look at her. "I'm ending this tomorrow. One way or another." "How?" "I'm meeting with Petrov. Face to face. We're going to negotiate a peace." "That's a trap." "Probably." "Then don't go." "I have to. This war is killing my people. Innocent people are getting caught in the crossfire. A factory worker was shot yesterday because she worked at one of my buildings. This has to end." Her heart clenched. "Let me come with you." "Absolutely not." "Nikolai." "No." "You're not walking into a death trap with me." You don't get to protect me by dying. And you don't get to die for me. They stared at each other, both breathing hard. I love you, he said quietly. I've never said that to anyone. I never thought I could. But I love you, which means I need you alive and safe more than I need you beside me. Tears burned her eyes. I love you too, which means I'm not letting you walk into this alone. You're impossible. You like impossible. Despite everything, he smiled, kissed her forehead. If I don't come back, you're coming back. If I don't, Victor will take care of you. Money, protection, everything. Promise me you'll accept it. I promise I'll burn down anyone who hurts you. He laughed, that rough, beautiful sound. You probably would. Definitely would. He held her all night. Neither of them slept. At dawn, he kissed her goodbye. She watched him leave, knowing she couldn't let him face this alone. She called Victor. I need to know where the meeting is happening.
No.
Victor, please. I have an idea. He'll kill me if anything happens to you. And I'll kill you if anything happens to him. Tell me. Victor was silent for a long moment. Then he gave her the address. An abandoned warehouse by the river. Of course. Where else did gangsters meet? What's your idea? Victor asked. She told him. That's insane, he said. But will it work? Maybe. If you don't get shot. Then let's make sure I don't get shot. The warehouse was gray and crumbling, surrounded by rusted shipping containers. Nikolai arrived with Victor and 4 men. Petrov arrived with twice as many. They met in the center of the empty space, 2 predators circling. Nikolai, Petrov said. He was older, gray-haired, with the look of a man who'd seen and done terrible things. I'm surprised you came. You wanted to talk. Let's talk. I want you gone. Out of the city. Out of the business. Retire somewhere warm and live out your days in peace. And if I refuse? Then this war continues until one of us is dead. And I have more soldiers than you. Numbers aren't everything.
True.
But they help. Petrov smiled. I know about the girl, Nikolai. The factory worker you fell for. Very romantic. Very stupid. She makes you weak. Nikolai's jaw tightened. Leave her out of this.
Why?
She's the perfect leverage. You'd give up everything for her, wouldn't you? Touch her, and I'll burn your entire organization to the ground. Empty threats from a desperate man. Try me. That's when she walked in. Every gun in the warehouse turned toward her. She walked calmly, hands visible, no weapon, no threat. Nikolai's face went white. What are you doing? She ignored him, walked straight to Petrov. I'm the girl, she said. The weakness. The leverage. Petrov looked amused. Foolish. But brave. I'm not here to die. I'm here to make a deal. What kind of deal? You want Nikolai out of the city. He won't leave because of his pride and his responsibilities. But what if there's a way to end this war, without anyone else dying? Without you looking weak? Without him losing his empire? Petrov raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. Merge. Silence.
What? Petrov said.
Your organization and his. Merge them. You get access to his contacts, his operations, his efficiency. He gets your resources, your political connections, your reach. You both get peace and profit. That's not how this world works, girl. Then change how it works. You're both smart men. You both know this war is expensive and stupid. You're killing each other over territory that you could share. Nikolai runs operations. You run strategy. Equal partners. Split profits down the middle. Why would I share when I could take everything? Because taking everything means months of war. More dead soldiers. More police attention. More disruption. More cost. And at the end, there's no guarantee you'll win. Nikolai's survived 20 years for a reason. He's not easy to kill. She turned to Nikolai.
And you?
You're too proud to surrender. But partnership isn't surrender. It's evolution. Nikolai stared at her like she'd lost her mind. Petrov laughed. You have steel, girl. I'll give you that. I grew up with nothing. I know what it's like to fight over scraps. I also know that sometimes the smartest move is to realize you're fighting the wrong person. You two aren't enemies. You're competitors fighting over the same resources. But if you work together, you could own this entire city. And what do you get out of this? Petrov asked. My life. His life. And no more factory workers getting shot because they're caught in crossfire. Petrov studied her, then turned to Nikolai. This is the woman who made you soft? She slapped my nephew and challenged me to be better, Nikolai said quietly. I'd hardly call that soft. Interesting. Petrov was silent for a long moment. I'll consider your proposal. Under one condition. What condition? She asked. She works for both of us. As a mediator. Someone neutral. Someone who can spot problems and solve them before they become wars. If she's as smart as she seems, she'll be valuable. Nikolai stepped forward. No. She's not part of this. Then there's no deal, Petrov said flatly. She put her hand on Nikolai's arm. I accept. You don't have to. Yes, I do. This is how we end this. This is how we save lives. Nikolai looked torn between pride and terror. Petrov extended his hand. Smart woman. Brave woman. Possibly insane woman. But I respect that. He shook her hand. We have a deal. Conditional. 1-month trial. If it works, we make it permanent. If it doesn't, we go back to war. It'll work, she said. We'll see. The merger was messy. 2 criminal organizations trying to work together was like forcing 2 fighting dogs to share a kennel. But slowly, carefully, she made it work. She mediated disputes, solved territorial conflicts, found compromises no one else saw. Nikolai watched her with a mixture of awe and terror. You're a natural, he said one night, 3 months into the arrangement. I'm a survivor. There's a difference. Is there? She smiled. Survivors learn to read people, learn to find solutions, learn to make the best of impossible situations. I've been doing this my whole life, just a bigger scale now. You saved me, he said quietly. Not just from the war, from myself. You saved me too. From the factory, from poverty, from giving up. He pulled her close. We saved each other. Yes. How did I get so lucky? You didn't. You just finally met someone too stubborn to walk away. He kissed her, and she tasted the future in that kiss. Complicated, dangerous. But there's 6 months later, they stood in a small church on the edge of the city. Not a big ceremony. Not a spectacle. Just 20 people. Victor as the best man. Katya and the other factory women in the front row, crying happy tears. And Petrov, surprisingly, sitting in the back with a grudging smile. She wore a simple white dress. Nothing fancy. But Nikolai looked at her like she was wearing diamonds. The priest spoke the words. They exchanged rings. And when Nikolai kissed her, she felt her mother's presence, proud, loving, certain that her daughter had found her way. Afterward, at the small reception, Vera approached her. Your mother would be so proud, Vera said, tears in her eyes. I hope so.
She is.
I'm certain of it. You fought. You stood up. You changed everything. We all did. You stood up too. When Nikolai asked who Dmitri had hurt, you were the first to speak. Vera hugged her. You gave us courage. You gave it to me first. The celebration lasted into the night. But at midnight, Victor pulled Nikolai aside. She watched them talk, saw Nikolai's face go hard. What's wrong? She asked when he came back. Nothing. Business. Can wait until tomorrow. Nikolai. He sighed. Took her hands. Dmitri is back. Her blood ran cold. What? He's been in Moscow. Making connections. Building support. And now he wants revenge. He's coming back to the city. When? We don't know. But soon. Fear flickered through her. Then anger. Then determination. Let him come, she said quietly. Nikolai looked surprised. You're not scared. I'm terrified. But I'm also done running from bullies. I faced him once. I'll face him again. This time he'll be more dangerous. So will I. Nikolai studied her face, then smiled. That rare, beautiful smile. You really are the bravest person I've ever met. Or the stupidest. Same thing sometimes. They held each other under the stars, knowing trouble was coming. But they'd face it together. She stood in front of the Volkov factory, no longer just Volkov, but Volkov Petrov Industries. It had been renovated. Bright paint, new equipment, fair wages, health benefits, a union. The women who worked there no longer looked haunted. They looked human. Katia had been promoted to floor supervisor, Vera to safety inspector. Dmitri had come back as promised, had tried to cause trouble. But this time, she hadn't faced him alone. She'd faced him with Nikolai at her side, with Victor and his men as backup, with Petrov's resources, and most importantly, with an entire factory full of women who were done being victims. Dmitri was in prison now. Actual prison. Nikolai had ensured he was arrested for his crimes, with testimony from 20 women brave enough to speak. Real justice, not street justice. She smiled at the memory. Proud of yourself? Nikolai asked, coming up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. A little. You should be. You changed everything. We changed everything. We make a good team.
The best.
They stood there, watching workers clock out at the end of their shift, laughing, talking, alive. I have something to tell you, she said quietly. What? I'm pregnant. Nikolai froze, then turned her around to face him, eyes wide. What? Pregnant. 2 months. You're where? We're going to have a baby. He kissed her, hard and desperate and joyful. I love you. I love you so much. I love you too. Are you happy? She looked at him. This dangerous, powerful man who'd become her partner, her equal, her home. She thought about her mother, who'd taught her to fight. She thought about the factory floor, where she'd learned her strength. She thought about the slap that had changed her life. I'm happy, she said. I'm terrified, but I'm happy. Our child will never know poverty, never know fear. Our child will know how to fight, she corrected. How to stand up. How to slap monsters when they deserve it. Nikolai laughed. God help anyone who crosses our kid. God help us. We're going to raise a tiny revolutionary. I can't wait. They walked home together, to the apartment they'd bought, the life they'd built, the future they'd fought for. And somewhere, in the space between stars, a mother smiled. Her daughter had kept her promise. She'd never stopped fighting. And she'd found her happiness. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stand up. Sometimes love finds you in the darkest places. Sometimes a single moment of courage changes everything. This story is dedicated to everyone who ever felt small, powerless, or invisible. You are stronger than you know. Never stop fighting.